Okay, where do I even start? Over the last 48 or 72 hours, the Mitch Marner saga that has already been incredibly long and drawn out and bizarre completely jumped the shark. Elliotte Friedman talked about it, Chris Johnston talked about it, Darren Dreger talked about it, Bob McKenzie talked about it, and James Myrtle talked about it. Each of them with key pieces to the story. So I know a bunch of you want me to yell and freak out about this. Let's actually get our ducks in a row first and figure out what's happening. Let's start with Elliotte Friedman's 31 Thoughts, the gospel of hockey at this point. Elliotte writes, "It is impossible to write or talk about Marner without offending someone, so here is my attempt at a bias-free take. It's tense and personal. My belief is Toronto is willing to go to an $11 million average annual value, but only if he signs for 7 years. I'd heard both sides might agree to 2 years, then let arbitration sort it out, but a few sources threw cold water on that. I mentioned during a radio hit last week the rumors that Marner's representatives pitched a 3-year contract with a structure similar to the Meier-Werenski setup, with a third season as high as $15 million. However, I'm told that was several months ago and is no longer relevant, although both sides have continued to explore that kind of an option. I don't sense things are anywhere close." Oh, that's such a roller coaster. When he mentioned Werenski and Meier, I got so happy because, oh wow, 2 reasonable RFA contracts that were signed. Then you keep reading and oh. If you're wondering what the whole $15 million thing means, you know qualifying offers? Basically, at the end of that proposed 3-year contract, a qualifying offer for Mitch Marner would be $15 million, which, what planet is this? Then Darren Dreger. "The Leafs have been persistent in pushing both 7-year and 8-year extension at Marner. The $11 million per offer was made in June and included the $1.6 million in B bonuses Toronto wouldn't pay Marner on his entry-level contract. 3-year extension remains the focus." There's that number again. 11 times 7. And if that sounds familiar to you, that's because that's John Tavares' contract that he signed as an unrestricted free agent. The thought used to be, hey, I'm going to sign as long a contract as possible because if I blow out my knee tomorrow, my career will be over, but at least I'll have this cash. But a lot of NBA stars don't have these long contracts. Granted, the NBA is in a league completely different from the NHL. You have guys making over $30 million. It's just not the same. But the principle is the same. Hey, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to sign a short contract, and because there's inflation, I'm going to sign a bigger one in 1, 2, or 3 years when this short contract is up. I will make more money in the end. Which, hey, fair. If the player wants to do that, it's their life, it's their career, that's their prerogative. How about Marner? Well, according to James Myrtle from The Athletic, the Leafs have tabled a series of aggressive offers dating back to late July, including a bridge deal of 3 years in the neighborhood of $26.5 million and a 7-year contract at Tavares-like money. There's that Tavares number again. It's been floated by Sportsnet, TSN, The Athletic. You can basically assume that it's true. $26.5 million divided by 3 years is $8.83 million. It's a discount, but not much. And with all the numbers out there, Bob McKenzie shared his thoughts. "These numbers help illustrate why it is so difficult to see a path to a Mitch Marner contract settlement anytime soon." Neat. Toronto has made 7 and 8-year offers in the $11 million AAV universe, but because it's a lower AAV and longer term than Austin Matthews, it hasn't been palatable to Marner. The logical solution would be a 3-year bridge deal, but because Marner wants an AAV in the 9 to 10 million universe, and the 3rd year, base for qualifying offer, would be substantially higher, I don't know, maybe 15 million higher, those are my words, not Bob's, Toronto has no incentive to do the bridge at those numbers. It's hard to see the way to a settlement unless one side or the other makes a seismic shift. This contract is several things because there's a bunch of RFAs that are still unsigned. Some of them are starting to trickle in, but none of the big players really. Actually, as I was shooting this video, Ivan Provorov signed a 6-year contract. Up front, we're waiting on Matthew Tkachuk, Travis Konechny, Braden Point, Patrick Laine, Kyle Connor, Brock Besser, and they all seem to be waiting on Mitch Marner, who I guess they've all decided is going to be the basis for their contract. Which, if you're Braden Point, why? Over the past 2 seasons, Braden Point only has 5 fewer points than Marner in 3 fewer games, and he has 25 more goals. But here's what I want to say in this video, okay? I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to go ballistic. I'm going to try for once in my life to act like an adult. Let's separate this from last year's William Nylander saga. It's just not the same. Nylander ended up signing for less than $7 million per season, and now we're talking about $11+ million and potentially $15 million qualifying offers. We're just not playing poker at the same table. 2 things stuck out to me in particular. Toronto has made 7- and 8-year offers in the $11 million AAV universe, but because it's a lower AAV and longer term than Austin Matthews, it hasn't been palatable to Marner. That's come up a few times over the past few months, and Austin Matthews appears to be a sticking point here in the Marner negotiations, doesn't he? This guy gets more money, this guy gets more term. Why? Why do I get less term and money than this guy? Less term and money than the greatest even strength goal scorer in the NHL over the last 3 seasons. It's a number, look it up, and he's about to get named captain of this hockey team. I'm trying to think back to stuff I said during the season, like Mitch Marner was on this magical run. He could not stop either putting the puck in the net himself or helping his teammates put the puck in the net. And he was doing all these wonderful things off the ice, caring for the fans, being very charitable with his time, doing everything not just a good player does, but a good person. And I remember saying something like, I am not so jaded that I think this is all just for PR. Has this whole saga changed my perception of that? Absolutely not. I live in the greater Toronto area, and people know that I work in talking about hockey, whatever the heck you call it. People like to come up to me and talk about hockey. I have never, not once, had a single person come up to me with a negative story about Mitch Marner. I don't know if they exist. I don't know if he forgot to floss one night or something like that. I've never heard a bad word about the kid. He sounds like a gem. And I look on Twitter and Instagram and everything, and hey, there he is. He's partying in the car with Patty Marleau and Austin Matthews. There's his pal. I'm a visual person. I try to picture things, and I can't for the life of me picture Mitch Marner saying these things. I deserve to make more than Matthews, or as much. I deserve the term that Matthews got, or as much. And this is the one I struggle with the most. The Leafs have been persistent in pushing both the 7- and 8-year extension at Marner. The $11 million offer was made in June and included the $1.6 million in B bonuses Toronto wouldn't pay Marner in his entry-level contract. That entry-level contract that didn't include the B bonuses that Marner signed, his entry-level contract, according to Cap Friendly, was signed July 28th, 2015. We are now over 4 years, almost 50 months since that day. Many of you have rightfully pointed out that Lou Lamoriello was the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs at the time. He's the one who signed that contract. Now, maybe it was under the guidance of Dubas that he was like, no, don't pay this kid those B bonuses, and that's been a sticking point because of that reason. I don't know. I literally just hypothesized that. I guessed. I made it up. And again, for the life of me, I just can't picture this being a genuine sticking point for Mitch Marner, the actual person whose name is Mitch Marner. I can't. And also, if it is, unless I'm misreading that, the money's in there. The $11 million per offer was made in June and included the $1.6 million in B bonuses Toronto wouldn't pay Marner in his entry-level contract. So unless I'm completely misreading that, the money that was a sticking point was in that deal. It's there. Here, we should have paid that to you once upon a time. Here it is now. And I think a lot of Leaf fans are in the same boat. We have a hard time picturing this guy saying these things, making these demands. Because Leaf fans, in case you've forgotten, and I think some of us have, love Mitch Marner. This guy is a great player, seems like a better person. he's great. I love having him in the blue and white. I love him with a leaf on his chest. And it shouldn't be more special that he's from here or whatever, but a little bit. It doesn't diminish the other players like William Nylander or Austin Matthews because they're not from the greater Toronto area, but the fact that Mitch Marner is essentially living all of our dreams is unreal. And that's John Tavares too, and that's even Zach Hyman as well. Imagine getting that phone call. Hey, you've been traded to the Leafs. What? So for like the 10th time, the Matthews stuff, the B bonuses stuff, I have a hard time picturing Mitch Marner getting caught up in those things. I really do. Maybe I'm being naive, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt there. So, who is it then? Okay, well, it's been theorized and we've talked about it. It could be his agent. After all, his agent has done this before. Oh, we're going to hold out and this is going to go into training camp and oh, we're going to go to Europe. It seems to be the same playbook. And by the way, a little bit of misconception here. I don't think Mitch Marner is genuinely threatening to play in Switzerland. I think he's just going to train there, which... whatever. I mean, that's what he's paid for, right? He's supposed to get his client as much money as possible, right? Guess what? Taylor Hall, unrestricted free agent next year. He's the big fish, a year removed from the MVP, Darren Ferris client. Now I have, let's put it lightly, gotten heated over this individual. I may or may not have said I hope he gets fired. But something tells me if his client is getting offered $11 million per year, he might be good at his job. I don't gotta like that, you don't gotta like it. Leafs Nation does not have to like that. The less he makes, the better it is for the team that we cheer for. That's how the salary cap works. But maybe it's not the agent. Okay, maybe it's not. Some people have theorized that it's the dad. It is an uncomfortable territory, and I hate every time that we come here. I cringe a little. Okay, let's make this super simple and easy and go, oh, it's all the dad's fault. Dude, he's biologically predisposed to want the best for this child man. He was his child and is now a man and is still his child. It's hard to blame a father for wanting to see his son flourish. Now you might say, well, sign in Toronto for whatever amount of money and you can make up that amount of money by doing whatever. Endorsements. Imagine you win a Stanley Cup, that's a golden ticket. And alright, that's fine, that's your opinion. He's not your kid. So I don't really know if there's any blame per se to be had. How Kyle Dubas has handled this, how Mitch Marner has handled this. We don't know anything really about how he's handled it. The dad, the agent in particular, who basically started this whole saga the day Austin Matthews was signed, coming out and attacking the contract. At some point, this conversation needs to come back down onto this planet that we call Earth. Because I don't know where it is right now that amount of money is getting turned down. I don't know where this is right now, that $1.6 million B whatever bonus is included in that deal and is still getting turned down. At some point along the line, maybe you've even said, well, if he doesn't want that, then trade him. And I've probably said it too. I don't think any of us want that, genuinely. The second he hits the ice in a Leaf uniform, I think you forgive him. And save this clip. You know there's going to be knuckleheads that boo. In a stadium full of 20,000 people, I regret to inform you, not all of them are smart. Once he hits the ice, all is forgiven. He will continue to be one of your favorite players. Right now, this looks like it's gone off the rails. And personally, I think Kyle Dubas is doing exactly the right thing. He answered some questions at the beginning of training camp and then said, guys, no updates from me. Nothing. It's radio silence until there is news. Because this is bananas. And I think probably both sides and the fans need to cool it a little bit. And I'll throw myself in that group. Here are the 3 key ingredients that we have here. 1, a really talented young player. 2, a really talented young team. Don't go saying cup contender. The NHL is goofy, okay? Injuries, the puck bouncing, being in last place on January 3rd. Anything can happen in this league. All you can do is put yourself in arm's reach. I don't care that they lost in the first round. You can easily say that the Leafs are at least within arm's reach. And third, a salary cap. A fixed, hard salary cap. A defined amount of money you're allowed to spend on talent. Somewhere in there is the formula to get this done. That's what it is. That's where we are. All that's left is the question, what's it gonna be? So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends that we love this player for a reason. Try not to forget about that. This is going to get done. I hope. Whew, how are we feeling after that, okay? Down in the description below, if you can, there is a link to donate to Easter Seals Ontario. That is a charity that helps out kids with physical disabilities. It's a charity that is near and dear to my heart. If you could help them out a little bit, it would mean a lot to me. Thank you very much.